This wasn't a tournament where everything was on the line. If I don't defend my points here, I'll get them somewhere else. Even after dropping the first set, I just thought it was a good start. I was competing. She just played the big points better. That mindset is what kept me going for the next 2 hours of the match. A $47 million tournament went from triumph to turmoil as Eala's exit sparked a financial collapse nobody saw coming. The Miami Open's numbers didn't just fall, they exposed the Women's Tennis Association's darkest secret. Revenue vanished, crowds disappeared, and the player who created the hype became the one to blame. But here's the question nobody dares to ask: was the fallout truly her fault? I'm at the 2026 Australian Open, where we saw incredible scenes this morning with the Filipino star. Eala was mobbed by hundreds of Filipino fans during her practice session at Melbourne Park. Ranked 49th in the world, she's captured the Filipino community's heart here since becoming the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam match at the 2025 US Open. It's safe to say most players would find that scene overwhelming, being swarmed for autographs and pictures, but she handled it perfectly. She stopped for the fans, then she left the practice court. Days before the meltdown, the 2026 Miami Open had unstoppable momentum. The crowds were louder, tickets sold faster, and the media frenzy was bigger than ever. This was more than a tournament, it was a phenomenon. At its heart was a 20-year-old who turned anticipation into a nationwide obsession. Subscribe if you know Eala's journey is just starting, and her greatest moments are still ahead. I just flew back from Indian Wells, the tennis tournament in Palm Springs. The one person I was most excited to see was Eala, the 20-year-old phenom from the Philippines, and I saw the match she played just before. The Filipino fan energy was unreal, absolutely electric. It pushed Eala through the night. A big reason I wanted to see her play was to feel that energy from the Filipino crowd. I couldn't wait to be part of that fan energy because it's the most talked about thing Eala brings to the court. The vibe shifted from a tournament to a total spectacle. It was the dream scenario organizers crave, but rarely see. The air was electric with possibility and massive expectation. Then everything took a sharp turn. I know you had a strong start this year, but what do you think happened tonight? I think she played great. And I definitely wasn't at my best, but a big part of that is because of how well she played. But yeah, there are small things I could have done better, and if I had, maybe the match would have been closer, but I'm still really happy. Women's Tennis Association execs gathered at Hard Rock Stadium expecting a victory lap, not a disaster. Ticket sales had exploded. Merchandise was flying off the shelves and ratings were booming with viewers who never watched women's tennis. Success was a given, a celebration was certain. Eala is not overhyped. She beat a tough opponent in 3 sets in Miami. It was a brutal mental battle, but Alex came out on top. The final was 6-7, 6-3, 6-3 after she dropped a tiebreak. That match was so intense. Lara Sigemund is not an easy out. She's someone who really pushes the rules. She stretches the rule book to its absolute limit, meaning she loves to use those, strategic bathroom breaks. Instead, they walked into a baffling contradiction that made no sense. A $4.7 million miss turned the party into a witch hunt. Quiet questions turned into sharp accusations, then into deeply personal attacks. Within hours, the focus wasn't on what went wrong, but who to blame. All eyes turned to the very player who built the hype. The situation got ugly because the real problem wasn't empty seats or a lack of interest. It was something far more specific. The entire financial model was built on one assumption that Eala would keep winning. When she lost, the whole thing fell apart. Broadcast partners had built their schedules around her matches. Sponsors bought courtside ads expecting to be seen deep into the tournament. She wasn't just playing in the event, she was the event. Her 4th-round exit sent immediate shockwaves. Premium tickets, tanked broadcast slots, lost value, and sponsors saw their airtime get cut short. You talk about a global sport. How about those Filipino fans? For Eala, it has become a full-blown phenomenon on the courts. This is an early vantage point on TC Live. Everywhere she goes, she gets absolutely swarmed. Swarmed is the right word, Steve. The only real drama, a security guard fumbling a rope. That's how close you get. It's the ultimate fan experience where Eala makes her main draw debut at Indian Wells. She was new to the game, but behind the scenes, the numbers were in free fall. It looked like a simple failure, but the truth was a system betting everything on one star. Instead of accountability, a scathing memo leaked blaming it all on one unproven player's marketability. The diplomatic language fooled no one. They'd ignored the real problems: rain delays, cancellations, and refunds that bled millions from the tournament each day. Sponsorship deals signed months ago based on old rankings were suddenly worthless. Insurance policies tied to performance backfired, triggering payouts and draining more revenue. Throughout the match, Eala's fans were making bad calls against her opponent. It was a clear and relentless hindrance that was frankly tough to watch. I checked to see if Eala ever called them out. From what I saw, she didn't. Then came the fakes AI-generated images of her opponent pointing fingers, a complete lie. In truth, after the match, Diana crossed the net and gave Eala a congratulatory hug. Some obsessive fans spun bizarre conspiracies painting her as a victim who needed protection. Broadcasters who paid a premium for Eala's matches were left with dead air. The replacement games drew dismal ratings and networks demanded their money back. Suddenly, the $4.7 million shortfall wasn't a mystery, it was a domino effect. But infuriatingly, the official story ignored these facts, keeping the focus locked on one person. The backlash was immediate. Players began to speak out. Pagula called it unrealistic pressure. Goff pointed out that elite competition is already more than enough pressure to handle. The WTA buckled under the pressure, issuing a weak follow-up statement. They claimed it was a system review, not an attack on a single player. But the damage was done. The conversation shifted from numbers to a fundamental loss of trust. Then in Miami, Eala overcomes dirty tactics to defeat Laura Siegemund. By the way, Miami is only about 3 or 4 hours away from me. I may just have to see her play live. People kept sending me clips of that match. The message was always the same: her opponent fought dirty, but Eala still won. Trust once shattered is hard to rebuild. In the middle of the chaos, Eala chose silence. No interviews, no drama. She just went home to train. Her silence was deafening. She had battled through brutal matches with a composure far beyond her years. She did her job while a firestorm erupted. It raised the one question no one would answer. Eala's popularity is not the problem. It is the tour's most valuable asset right now. She creates new fans, new energy, and excitement you simply cannot manufacture. But popularity without a proper support system just becomes pressure, and that pressure becomes blame. These slower courts should really help her lefty game, letting her work the angles. But she's in a killer bracket. She has to get through monsters just to reach the round of 16. But I think the massive fanfare she's received can push a player to do incredible things. We've already witnessed it in Australia. Mobs of fans swarmed her side courts. She needs a bigger stage, if only for safety. As clay season begins, the spotlight shifts to new tournaments and fresh matchups. The Miami controversy will fade, but the questions will linger. Everyone saw the system break. The next star to rise this fast will have to manage more than just the hype. They'll have to manage impossible expectations. Will the system learn, or will history repeat itself? If one single player generates millions in attention, energy, and revenue, what happens when the whole game rests on one woman's shoulders? Cross that line and tennis is eclipsed by forces no one can manage. The irony is crushing. The Miami Open had it all: top talent, elite matches, everything needed to keep fans glued to their seats. Alexa has been a phenomenon on the WTA Tour for the last few years, but she was carrying a crippling 0-10 record heading into the Qatar Open. Philippa Sarr is set for the year's first major event, but to survive round 1, she must shatter that awful streak. Throughout her career, IA has faced 10 Czech opponents and lost every time. The early hype just wasn't converting. The crowds went quiet. Online buzz died. Ticket prices cratered the second her name vanished from the draw. The financial chasm between her presence and her absence is staggering, turning a spectacle into just another tournament. The WTA now faces a brutal truth. How did one player become its entire center of gravity? Why was there no safety net when she bowed out? This isn't complicated. The whole system leaned on her. When she fell, the foundation cracked, showing its true fragility. This isn't about money anymore. It's about control. Let me tell you, I am never like this after a loss. But this was a completely different situation. I remember saving a match point, just fighting to stay in it. I just tried to stretch the match out because I knew this is exactly where I was meant to be. And after the handshake, I sat down, looked up, and saw a sea of Philippine flags and Filipino fans. It was past midnight. They weren't leaving, and I just had the best run of my life. When a star becomes bigger than the machine built around them, the machine either adapts or it rewrites the story before the balance of power shifts for good. The Miami fallout suggests the second option is already in play, not through splashy headlines, but with subtle adjustments, new marketing angles promoting other players, and trying to spread the spotlight so one exit never leaves such a gaping void again. This silently puts Eala at the epicenter of the tour's most defining moment in years as the brass scrambles behind closed doors. Her focus, however, has turned to the unique rhythm of the clay season, where slower courts and longer rallies perfectly suit her evolving game. I can't predict what's going to happen when I actually get to Miami, but last year there was magic for me. It was the start of everything. But since that moment, I've accomplished so much, I've grown, I've had incredible matches, brutal losses, and gained so much experience. That's what built my confidence. I know I belong. But here's the twist, a deep run on clay could flip the entire script overnight. All this chatter about risk would be replaced by talk of breakthroughs and unstoppable growth. The very system that panicked over its reliance on her would be riding her momentum once again. If she pulls it off, the real test won't be on her. It will be on whether the system actually learned anything. This goes way beyond the single tournament's profits. It's the question that hung in the air from the start. If the tour knew her true value, the money, the energy, the global attention, why did it take her losing to admit how much they depended on her?